In a closed-door meeting with her caucus, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi urged House Democrats, including progressives, to vote in favor of the budget reconciliation bill and, of course, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, also known as the corporate handout bill. Now, she is expecting a vote on these bills by the end of the week, on Thursday specifically, although she's trying to keep her powder dry, as they say in politics, and not announce a specific date as she has in the past. Now, Pramila Jayapal is very much part of the negotiations, considering the fact that she's the leader of the progressives, and she continues to disappoint us today. Now, Pelosi told Democrats at Tuesday's morning caucus meeting that hopefully by midday, they will be able to freeze the design of the reconciliation bill. She said leaders are waiting for Manchin and another key Democrat, Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, to weigh in on final provisions over climate change and lowering prescription drug costs. And by the way, more on that in just a minute, and the immigration provisions which remain in flux. Now, Pelosi said that the next step is to bring the Biden package to the Rules Committee. She plans on doing that by Wednesday of this week, meaning tomorrow, which would pave the way for a vote as soon as Thursday on the bill, as well as a companion $1 trillion infrastructure package. Remember, that infrastructure package is not really $1 trillion. It uses money that was appropriated specifically for COVID and has a little over $500 billion in new spending. The remarks were conveyed by a person familiar with her comments who requested anonymity to share details about this private meeting. Now, really, the big question is, where does Joe Manchin stand, right? And Joe Manchin, even with all the concessions that he got from the Biden administration, from the corporate wing of the Democratic Party, still refuses to commit to voting in favor of it. He claims he's waiting for the Congressional Budget Office to weigh in on how this would impact the overall federal budget. Manchin said he's open to voting for a final bill reflecting Biden's big package that moves our country forward, but he said he's equally open to voting against the final product as he assesses the sweeping social services and climate change bill. And of course, he's got these massive conflicts of interest since he profits so handsomely off of the fossil fuel industry, particularly coal. Cenk, I'm gonna go to a quick video of Manchin from today, and then we'll open it up. Let's watch.
Basically, it's time to do something. The president's over there. He went there. He asked for something before he left, and everyone ignored it. I didn't ignore it, and I thought of something that could have been done. It was a very easy ask. Just vote for the bipartisan infrastructure bill. It has a tremendous amount of clean energy in it. Would have helped an awful lot, and it does an awful lot, more than we've ever done before. They couldn't even do that because they were saying it's not the perfect is going to be the enemy of the good if we don't sit down and be rational about what we're doing.
So there you have it, Manchin continuing to apply pressure on progressives, and Representative Jayapal is about to deliver, so thoughts?
Yeah, all right, first, Pelosi presses progressives to give up. Of course she does. Look, if you watch this show regularly, you will see that we're almost never wrong about these things. And I'm not saying that in a bragging way, I'm saying that so you can see with your own eyes exactly what happens in politics, and that you could see that it's all theater, it's all fake. Right? So that Pelosi pretended to be with the progressives all along. We were the only ones who told you she's not with them. She's gonna run out the clock and at the end pressure them to give Manchin what he wants. And that's exactly what happened. So that's happening right now, today. Okay, number two, there is upside here. We're fair, we don't take like one random side, including, by the way, the progressive side, and say, oh, no, progressive legislators are always right. And people are used to that here in America because our media is so terrible. So mainstream media supports corporate politicians no matter what. Right-wing media supports Trump supporting Republicans no matter what. We don't do that here, okay? So now the good news is it looks like they're gonna have a written bill in the House. And so now Biden, Manchin, no, not Manchin, Biden is saying, yes, the Senate will definitely pass that version, that House version they're about to pass. Okay?
There's no promise that that'll actually happen.
Yeah, no, there's a promise from Biden. Okay.
There's a promise from Biden, but that really means nothing.
No, that's okay. I totally agree. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
So Manchin, on the other hand, says, I do not promise it. He was very clear in his press conference. He said, it is equally likely that I will vote no. So later, when Jayapal, as you're gonna see now, she's like, oh, I trust and love these people. My God, they would never. a politician lying, a corporate politician lying, it would never happen, my beloved Democratic colleagues, right? Well, later Manchin will say, I didn't lie. I told you before you surrendered that I wasn't gonna necessarily vote for your bill. And then Biden will say, oh, Joe. He apparently calls him Jojo.
It's very cute.
Okay, hey Jojo, you promised those rascally progressives, you remember? And Manchin at that point will pretend to get offended about something that happened in the meanwhile. He'll say, oh, well, I was going to, but I didn't even say it though. I wasn't, but I would have out of good faith. But since they did XYZ, I can't do that anymore. So they're getting rooked and played as hard as you could possibly get played. And the planning here has been atrocious.
It has, yeah.
So right now, the ship is this close to sailing, and it doesn't look like there's any progressive revolt at all. So Manchin is about to get everything he wanted.
That's exactly right, and you're right in terms of progressives lacking any strategy. Progressives did in fact have leverage because we're talking about the corporate wing of the Democratic Party and their corporate donors endlessly salivating over the pork in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which would of course go to them. That's why they're salivating over it. But the worst part about all of this is the lack of leadership for the Progressive Caucus. And without further ado, I give you Representative Pramila Jayapal. Let's watch.
This week, we will have votes on both the infrastructure bill and the Build Back Better Act together, which is what we've called for weeks. So we finally got what we've been saying, and we're glad that people listened to us.
He was saying, trust me on Thursday though.
But we didn't have the bill. And he did not ask for us to vote on that day. He said, I need votes on both bills. And we have been saying for months, we are not going to vote just on an idea or a promise or a framework. We're gonna vote on legislation. The minute we have legislation, we can look at it. Our members can decide whether it is good enough, which we feel very good about, then we will pass both bills. And I think that is what we've been saying for weeks. I don't understand why anyone's confused about it.
I take offense to the way that she framed it there because she's lying. This was not their strategy from the jump. Their strategy initially was to refuse voting on the bipartisan infrastructure bill until there was passage of the reconciliation bill in the Senate. Now she's completely surrendered and she's saying, no, we're gonna vote on both bills and pass both bills before we get passage of the reconciliation bill in the Senate. Even that stripped down, pared back reconciliation bill, we still don't have a commitment from Joe Manchin, but Pramila Jayapal is saying, well, Biden promises that he'll get it done in the Senate, so we're gonna go ahead and do this. Okay, well, that is a change in strategy. That's why people might be a little confused, as she put it. But don't act like this has been a consistent strategy among progressives, and all of a sudden people are confused and don't know what's going on. No, you changed what you were doing. And it's very clear to everyone paying attention.
So look, I know in Washington, everything is about personal allegiances. So which side are you guys on? Which politician's side are you on? We're not on any politician's side. So I like Jayapal. I've met her, she's a very nice person and she's definitely a real progressive, okay? But she's wrong here. And furthermore, in this case, she's crossed the line. What she's saying is not true. It is definitively not true. They said that they would not pass the infrastructure bill in the House until the reconciliation, the bigger one, passed in the Senate, not in the House, passed in the Senate. Because that was the whole point of that trade. Now she's pretending that they didn't say that and they meant that they're gonna pass them together in the House. Well, that's just flat out not true. And we're not gonna tell you that it's true. I don't know if that's what her expectation is, that the media is just supposed to work for her. Okay, and by the way, John Berman, credit to him, he actually asked really good questions in that CNN interview, and he held her to account. So she had to give this ridiculous answer. Now, the second part of it is, as I told you earlier, the fact that they're gonna have a written bill at least is something, because it's tangible. Now, what's in the bill is, I think, pretty bad to approaching terrible. So we'll get to that later, but at least they'll have a written bill. Okay, now, then comes the question, who's right and who's wrong? Jayapal says, here, if you get past the fact that she's not telling the truth about the order of things, but it's okay. Let's say that they're gonna pass it. It looks like they're going to in the House. They're gonna give them both. Then it's gonna go to the Senate as a written bill from the House, concrete. will they vote on that bill and pass it? She says, Biden says definitely, okay? And I'm telling you right now, no way. Now you're gonna get to see on your own who's right and who's wrong. I'm telling you right now, the minute they pass the infrastructure bill, that's the corporate-backed bill, they lose all leverage instantly. They have literally zero leverage. I wish it weren't the case, but that's the case. And so what is Manchin gonna do? What any sensible negotiator would do. I changed my mind. In fact, I didn't even change my mind. I told you ahead of time that I was equally likely to vote no. And you were an idiot and surrendered to me anyway. I mean, look, it's uncomfortable, but it's true. Who would surrender to a guy who said, I might not even give you what you want? How is that a negotiation? No, that's just a surrender. That's all it is. You can pretty it up and you can get offended at us for calling it what it is, but it's at this point like embarrassingly obvious.
Yes.
So is Manchin gonna vote yes, and Sinema gonna vote yes on that House version of that concrete bill? My guess is no, they will not. The only thing they'll do is they'll then strip it out even further. This already sucks. And they'll strip out more provisions and anything that hurts their corporate donors, even $1. And then they'll say, now you could vote on this piece of trash that we handed back to you at the House. And then that way we'll all get to do fake marketing about what a historic bill it was. And if you don't vote for it, we'll browbeat you and say, oh my God, these guys are, no, well, the deal's off if they're not gonna vote on the piece of garbage we gave them. Or they won't pass it at all, and then they'll laugh their ass off at you.
Okay.
And when that happens, Jayapal should no longer be the leader of the Progressive Caucus. That's obvious. The only thing that would prevent that is the feelings of the people in the caucus. Now, if I'm wrong though, if she gets that concrete written bill passed, I think it still sucks, but at least she would be right about that, and you give her credit for that.
I don't even really think we need to wait and see what happens with the pared down reconciliation bill to make a decision about Pramila Jayapal's leadership. Her leadership has been awful. There has been a lack of strategy, an unwillingness to use the leverage that progressives have. And I think that the worst scenario is very likely. And that worst scenario is that they're gonna pass the corporate handout bill and possibly not get passage of the reconciliation bill, which with everything that's been taken out of it, there are still some important provisions, right? Including universal pre-K, something that is not being means tested, something that applies to everyone universally, right? So that's huge. I mean, that's essentially childcare. And we've talked about the childcare provision and how that's lacking and everything. But what's also interesting, Cenk, is during that same interview on CNN, Jayapal was asked about Representative Ro Khanna, who is also a progressive. He's part of the Progressive Caucus. And just last weekend, he was doing his rounds on the Sunday shows, giving his interviews about the reconciliation bill. And I thought the way that Pramila Jayapal answered questions about his appearances was telling. So let's just quickly watch that.
One of the things I saw over the weekend was your colleague and member of the Progressive Caucus, Ro Khanna, went out and did the Sunday shows. And he said on Sunday, which is before you've announced, and now you're crystal clear, you're a yes on both bills, you want the vote right now. Congressman Khanna said it Sunday, he basically said it first. And after he said it, Ron Klain, who's the White House chief of staff, who according to Politico and others, you've been in conversations with pretty intensely for the last month. Ron Klain sends out not one, not two, not three tweets gushing over Ro Khanna, and one of them is a retweet of Gene Sperling that said, "Thank you for your leadership, Ro Khanna." And it struck me as the White House picking members of the Progressive Caucus that they're more happy with there.
Well, look, I mean, people are gonna do whatever they're gonna do. I represent the caucus. Most of our members have stayed with not getting out in front of the caucus. But if somebody wants to say they're gonna vote for the bill, that's fine. When we say yes, we say yes. When we say no, we say no. And people should learn that I don't say that unless I know I have the votes.
So why did Khanna do that though? Because that is true. Ro Khanna gives these interviews. He says that he's a yes vote on the honestly stripped down reconciliation bill. And so was that, I know it's ridiculous to think that progressives even have any strategy considering the lacking strategy in this whole reconciliation debate, but did Ro Khanna go out there and basically take it for Pramila Jayapal ahead of time?
No.
What was that?
Look, I don't know for sure, and we could settle it because Ro Khanna is going to be on the show on Friday, so we'll ask him. But it looks like Jayapal was not happy that Ro Khanna went out first. And so, but it doesn't really matter, because if you're the leader, you just say, yeah, he's not the leader, I am, and I speak for the caucus. But you have to back that up, it has to be true, right? And if Roe or anybody else had said, oh yes, we're gonna take both from Manchin, and I'm the leader, and that's not where we're at, I come out tomorrow and we go, no, we're not. And that's it, we're done with it. And then his points become irrelevant. So it just takes strong leadership. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat, emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.